Welcome back. He did it again. And that was a really good one. That was good. Yeah.
Okay.
That was smooth, I gotta admit.
We've talked about different humanoid species that have been on this planet, and we know that the victors create the history. History can be broken down into his story.
Yes, indeed.
Or her story.
Or hers, yep.
Or their story.
Everybody else's story, but not the real story.
Exactly. But we keep getting little nuggets about the past that are just interesting, and it's curiouser and curiouser down the rabbit hole.
I know. Maybe one day we might actually write a book about it.
I think books are coming. Maybe when we get finally settled in a spot.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd be great.
I do think so. I've always been told, going back to high school, from my English teacher, who was my homeroom teacher, that if you don't write books, I'm going to be mad.
Oh, we don't want that.
No. So researchers may have found the true identity of the ancient Hobbit, quote-unquote, species. Actually, there's 2 Hobbit-like species that they've found, and it's fascinating. So we're going to read some of this, but I also want to share with you what Cindy has been getting from the guides, because she's been getting some interesting info on species that have lived on this planet.
Yes, and a very peaceful one, too.
So anthropologists know of at least 2 ancient species of tiny humans that lived on the islands of Southeast Asia over 50,000 years ago. And whenever I see these numbers that are so round like that, I start thinking of the 25,000-year increments from the Law of One, where they said 75,000 years ago was the beginning of this cycle. And then they were breaking it down to 3 25,000-year periods. The origin of these extinct humans is unknown, but new research suggests they're more closely related to Denisovans and Neanderthals, and by consequence, modern humans, than previously thought. New research published in Nature, Ecology, and Evolution has found no evidence of interbreeding between modern humans, Homo sapiens, and 2 extinct species of short-statured humans, Homo florenziensis, commonly known as the Flores Island Hobbits, and Homo luzonensis, which was found in the Philippines. Fossil evidence of these 2 species described in 2004 and 2019, respectively, suggests that these guys stood no taller than about 3 feet 7 inches, a possible consequence of insular dwarfism, an evolutionary process in which the body size of a species shrinks over time as a consequence of limited access to resources. Could very well be. It could, very well be, especially when you think about, being found on islands.
Mm-hmm, that's true. They might have had to adjust their size accordingly.
So at the same time, new paper led by João Teixeira from the University of Adelaide provides further confirmation of interbreeding between the Denisovans and modern humans, specifically modern humans living in island Southeast Asia, an area that encompasses tropical islands between East Asia, Australia, and New Guinea. Now, right off the bat, that takes me back to our good friend who hasn't done a lot of videos lately, Robert Seffert, Atlantean Gardens, because he did a video, and this was him, saying that could perhaps Denisovans and Neanderthals be some of what we get the interpretation of interbreeding in the Bible and creating the giants and this and that. He's again trying to look at it from a scientific point of view and not get into, I believe, any ancient alien theory.
Which I think is more better.
Right. It is interesting. So Denisovans, a sister group of Neanderthals, reached the area some 50 to 60,000 years ago. But archaeologists have yet to uncover a shred of fossil evidence related to these so-called southern Denisovans. That's obviously weird given the overwhelming genetic evidence that they lived in this part of the world, but it means there are important archaeological discoveries still waiting to be found, at least in theory. So the new paper, co-authored by anthropologist Chris Stringer from the Natural History Museum in London, suggests modern humans interbred with Denisovans, but not the 2 species of the hobbits. That's an important result because it would help to explain the presence of the diminutive humans who died out about 50,000 years ago in this part of the world. Excitingly, it could mean that these super archaics, in the parlance of the researchers, are not super archaic after all, and are more closely related to modern humans than previously thought. In other words, the two species of Hobbit might actually be the elusive southern Denisovans themselves. See, there's other species that we know are there, but we don't know what they are. But we know they're there because of the genetic signatures. We know there's some missing quote-unquote links. And, of course, again, ancient astronaut theorists say, just look to the heavens. And
I think that's where, well, we're all made of some kind of stardust.
For sure, for sure. So given that present-day human populations in the island Southeast Asia have retained a significant amount of Denisovan DNA, the authors wondered if the two versions of the Hobbits also interbred with modern humans. It was also possible, though unlikely, another ancient human called Homo erectus. And some believe that it was Homo erectus or maybe Homo habilis that, quote-unquote, was what was altered by Enki, to create Homo sapiens. So, some are of that line of thinking. It was also possible, though unlikely, an ancient human called Homo erectus, which lived in Java till about 117 to 108,000 years ago, might have contributed to modern human ancestry. Indeed, one possible scenario is that the super archaics were descended from Homo erectus. Now, Homo erectus was smaller, not as small as these guys, but smaller. Like, if I'm remembering properly, I would say under 5 feet, like 4 feet.
That's pretty small.
6, maybe 4'10", somewhere in that range. To that end, the scientists studied the DNA of 400 modern humans, which more than half were of island Southeast ancestry. The team searched for key genetic signatures indicative of interbreeding events related to deeply divergent hominin species. Island Southeast Asia is the most likely geographic region where such events could have occurred due to the aforementioned presence of Homo floresiensis and Homo luzonensis, and perhaps Homo erectus as well. It's important to note that the scientists do not have genomes for the two short-statured species, nor Homo erectus for that matter. There are no first-hand genomes of the kind we have from Neanderthals and Denisovans, but there are second-hand bits of DNA in the Denisovan genomes that seem to come from them having interbred with a super archaic population. These can be recognized by their greater than average divergence within the genome, and also if there has been recent interbreeding, the strands of DNA will have been shuffled up less, and hence found in larger and more pristine chunks. To be clear, scientists are not looking for specific species-related genomes, but evidence of interbreeding, which leaves a pronounced genetic signature across the entire genome. Results show that modern humans did not interbreed with the two small human species, but the team did confirm Denisovan ancestry among individuals from island Southeast Asia. As Stringer put it, the DNA of local populations shows signs of ancestry from the Denisovans, who are currently only known from fossils in Asia, but no genetic evidence deriving from the ancient humans whose bones have actually been found in the area. Indeed, fossil evidence of Denisovans is also non-existent in island Southeast Asia, and the evidence does exist elsewhere is sparse. So aside from genetics, the presence of this human species is known from a finger bone, several teeth, and skull fragments found in Siberia, as well as a 160,000-year-old jawbone in a cave that they found in the Tibetan plateau. So the new research confirms that the two super archaic species did not contribute ancestry to modern human populations. So we're not related to the hobbits, apparently.
Apparently, then you get in this question when you're reading this information, who do you believe?
Yeah, exactly. So the ISEA fossil hominins are thought to represent a much older split, approximately 2 million years ago. But those estimates rely on morphological comparisons to an assumption that they descended from Homo erectus, which they don't really know. So our results show that such super archaic species did not interbreed with modern humans in ISEA. And again, that's island Southeast Asia. But what if we're wrong? Well, so there you go. What if we're wrong? But it's interesting because, again, you have modern Homo sapiens, and when we've looked at these species, I mean, they're very humanoid. So this is their depiction of one of those two species. Mm-hmm. And the other one, very humanoid looking. And, maybe the reality is, maybe a little more kempt, and polished. Who knows? They don't give us everything. Mm-hmm. And this was out of Newsweek about the discovery of the ones in the Philippines, Luzonensis. Fascinating, really. So what can you get from the guides on these two species?
Well, with specifically the Denisovans, that's what I picked up the clearest. They showed me from above these beings, like tribal in appearance. They wore like loincloths, so they were very much with the earth. They were very much intertwined with the earth, and they showed me them always around a stream of running water, and they really kind of put emphasis on that. They're like, look at the running water. Look how close they are working with the water and with the land. And then the other feeling I got that washed over me was a very peaceful type of a feeling, and that they got along with one another. They got along with the planet. They knew things about the planet, about how to work things. I mean, I know that there's some things about the weather now. There's weather technology, but these beings knew how to modify the weather with their own being, with their souls. You can call it rain dancing, call it fire dancing, call it what you will, but they knew how to adjust the weather with just themselves. These Denisovans were extremely advanced as far as it goes to blending with the earth.
Interesting. And, perhaps because of that, that's why they're no longer with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there is another being or species that saw that they could take advantage of the resources here, and the only way they could do that is to move these other beings out of the way. So they did.
And I wonder how they did that. Do you have can they give us any information on what was the fate of the Denisovans? How did they end up extinct except for in some of our genes?
They just give me one word, and that's poisoning.
Poisoning. Interesting. Do you get any sort of depiction of that? Do you see what that looks like? Is it anything similar to what we see happening in the clouds above our heads every day?
Well, they are showing me a kind of a fog, so they had to put it in something where they had no choice but to inhale it or breathe it in or be in it in some way, shape, or form. So it had to be in the air, in the ether, so that no matter where you are at, it got you.
Interesting. That's really sad. Here we see, this was by Andrew Collins. Andrew Collins has done some really good books. The Lost Legacy of the Super Intelligent Denisovans, who calculated cynocentric based cosmological alignments 45,000 years ago. So yeah, that would say that they're very in tune with things.
Oh, extremely, to the point where I think we would be amazed at how, we could probably watch one of them if they were alive today and standing outside where we could see them. They could probably part the clouds so that the sun could shine through. If they needed more sunshine for their crops, they could get more sunshine. They knew how to do that, work with their souls, with the planet to get that. If they needed more rain for their crops, they knew how to do that. They knew what energies to put off to manipulate their surroundings.
So that makes me think of the Essene Gospel of Peace that we had talked about being in contact with the Mother and in alignment with the Mother Earth, and that when you are, then her angels will bless you with good health and well-being. Again, the elemental beings will actually work with you. They'll know your intent and they'll manifest it.
Oh, they will, and I mean, to a certain extent, we all have some of these abilities left over, and I think it's the ones with the stronger abilities that get targeted because we're in their way of making everything completely 100% controllable.
So they were robust individuals, and by the way, Denisovan comes from Denisova Cave, named after a hermit called Denis. We kid you not, who lived there in the 18th century. Interesting. So proved the occupation of the Denisovans there between 100,000 and 40,000 years ago. And it comes from the discovery of 3 molars, 2 from adults, 2 from one from an adolescent. All are extremely robust, suggesting that at least some of the Denisovans were of exceptional height and strength. Ooh, that sounds interesting, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, when they were showing them to me, they do show them robust.
Like muscular, big.
Yeah, strong, very strong. Yep.
Interesting. So, yeah, 5 to 6% Denisovan DNA has been traced in modern human populations from Central Asia west across to East Asia, South Asia, Melanesia, and Australia. So the thing I keep thinking when we're talking about the island, Southeast Asia, it makes me just automatically think of Lemuria, Mu.
I know it does. Yep.
Which was a peaceful culture.
Yeah, very, very peaceful.
So they showed advanced human behavior as well. And, actually crafting things as in addition to that. Various tantalizing examples of advanced human behavior, including a beautifully polished arm bracelet made of bottle green.
Coralite?
Yes.
Coralite, yeah.
This shows evidence of having been sawed, polished, and finally drilled to create a hole through its width, so a second object, perhaps a stone ring, could be hung from a cord. This is really interesting when we think about the Denisovans, and here is how they're depicting them.
No, that's not how I see them.
No, not at all.
No, it's not. They're more, they're smoother looking, and they just don't look like that.
Well, when we look just at the skulls, you could see much bigger than modern human. Neanderthal somewhere in the middle. But Denisovans, very large cranial capacity. Both Denisovans, Neanderthal, and then we could add Cro-Magnon, all had larger brains than Homo sapiens.
Well, yeah, it was the brains and the heart chakra. That's what allowed them to control the ether around them.
So bigger, more robust, stronger, bigger brains.
Yeah.
Why did they not survive and we did?
Well, I think it was a matter of they were in a situation that they didn't know what they were up against. They lived a very peaceful life, had a very peaceful upbringing, didn't expect that there could be other predators out there to take advantage of them.
Other predators perhaps from above.
Oh, yeah.
With real advanced technology.
Well, yeah, technology like we would know it today, yeah.
Very sad. Very, very sad when you think about that. So when you're talking about what you're describing, it takes me back to the Bible. And, times when, say perhaps when David, when David did the census, and then there was a fog, a plague that came from God, and it killed 50,000 people. There's more than one time when these quote-unquote plagues come and mass amounts of people are killed off.
Mm-hmm. Right. There are. And that's really, really sad. And it's right there in front of us. And we believe that to be the word of God. Yeah,
well, if we look at the Sumerian stories and we look at others from all over the globe, we recognize it's not the case. What we're talking about, again, is the reptilians, the Draco-led reptilians, the, Nibiruans, and others as well.
Yeah, well, I think it's about giving people the seeds of insight. Like when I would read the Bible, it wasn't until I looked through it through a lens of technology when I understood some of the things that were being described in there in the Bible were actually spaceships.
Exactly. So there's been many different humanoid species on this earth. And do you remember when we were scanning Atlantis, and you said you saw all different types of beings.
I do remember. There were all different types of beings, that it was just very common. So nobody was aghast or, took a step back when they saw someone who might have tentacles.
Yeah. Again, history is written by the victors, and ours has been totally covered up.
Completely. Mm-hmm.
It is. Well, thank you guys for being part of the family. I hope you guys found this interesting, and we look forward to your comments. Make sure you're subscribed and have the bell clicked for notifications. Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. And if you need to reach us, it's evolutionaryenergyarts@gmail.com or EEARTS@protonmail.com. And Cindy's going to give us a ding.
God bless and namaste.
God bless. Namaste.